There's a bridge in China so high that clouds drift below the road. From the deck down to the river is 625 meters. 2 Empire State Buildings stacked, and you'd still be short of the water. A canyon that once took 2 hours to cross now takes 2 minutes. They finished the whole thing in 3 years, for less than a third of what the Golden Gate cost. It all hangs from cables spun out of 40,000 steel wires. Here's how China built it, and why out here, of all places. This is Guizhou, deep in China's southwest. Mountains everywhere, flat ground almost nowhere. People here have an old saying, there isn't 3 flat miles in the whole province. For centuries, that meant a village could sit a mile away and still be a full day's walk apart. Guizhou was one of the poorest corners of China, and the land itself kept it that way. Trucks couldn't reach the farms, so crops rotted before they ever hit a market. Poverty here was really a transport problem. The rock here is soft limestone. Rain and rivers carve it into deep gorges and sheer cliffs. The whole plateau is riddled with caves and sinkholes, so even tunneling through it is a gamble. Before a tower could go up, crews drilled deep to make sure the rock wasn't hiding a hollow cave right under the base. And rivers like the Beipan slice canyons, hundreds of meters straight down through the rock. You can't farm that, you can't easily walk it, but you can bridge it. So that's exactly what China did. Guizhou now holds more than 32,000 bridges. Nearly half of the 100 highest bridges on Earth stand in this one province. Locals call it the Bridge Museum, and the newest exhibit just broke the world record. This is the Huajiang Canyon Bridge, and it opened to traffic in late September 2025. Walk out onto it, and the river below shrinks to a thin brown thread. The deck runs 1,400 meters between 2 towers, each as tall as an 80-story building. End to end, it stretches almost 3 kilometers across open air. It crosses the same river as the old record holder, about 200 kilometers upstream. The bridge it dethroned as the world's tallest? Also Chinese. Also on this same river. So China didn't beat some rival here. It quietly beat itself. The Beipan carved the deepest of all these gorges, which is why the tallest bridges keep landing on the same stretch of water. Now, why build a suspension bridge and not the fan of cables you see on most new spans? Those cable-stayed bridges are cheaper and faster, but their towers can only sit so far apart. Once you need more than a kilometer of clear span, suspension is the only design that holds. The main cables hang in a long curve and carry the whole load as pure tension, which is the one thing steel does best. So the entire road deck hangs from 2 main cables slung between the towers. Each cable is spun from around 40,000 hair-thin steel wires pressed into one tight bundle. The steel is rated at 2,000 megapascals, strong enough to hold up a small hill. To build each cable, a wheel ran back and forth across the gorge, laying the wires down one thin loop at a time. Each tower is anchored to the cliff by concrete blocks heavier than the deck they carry. But 600 meters up, the real enemy isn't the weight, it's the wind. So the deck isn't a solid slab. It's an open steel truss the wind blows straight through. 93 of those sections, 22,000 tons of steel in all, and each one is shaped like a knife's edge, so the wind slips past instead of shoving it. Before a single beam went up, engineers tested a scale model in a wind tunnel for months. Get that shape wrong and wind alone can twist a bridge apart. It's happened before, on a famous American span, which leaves the part that sounds impossible. How do you get the first cable across at all? You fly it. Drones carried the very first line straight over the gorge. That first thin thread pulled a thicker rope across. That rope pulled a steel cable. Link by link, the crossing built itself. They mapped the whole site by drone too, to avoid tearing up the mountainside. Then the fog rolled in, and the usual measuring tools basically went blind. So they steered the entire build by satellite, China's own Beidou system, down to the millimeter. The rest went up almost like snapping together giant building blocks. A smart hoisting rig raised each section and locked it in place, almost on a single command. The deck was built outward from both rims at once. The 2 halves had to reach the middle and meet within millimeters. The full deck was assembled in just 73 days. Ground broke in early 2022, the main cables went up by late 2024, and it opened last September. The steel grows in heat and shrinks in cold too. On a summer day, the whole deck can sit nearly a meter longer than in winter. Before it opened, They parked rows of loaded trucks on it and measured every millimeter it flexed. They wired the whole span with sensors that watch for stress and sway, feeding a control room that never really shuts off. 3 years, over a canyon that stops most engineers cold. And now the number that made engineers abroad do a double take: the price. The entire bridge came in at around $280 million, 9 times taller than the Golden Gate. Dollar for dollar of height, nothing else on Earth comes close. Turkey's giant new span cost nearly $3 billion. This one didn't even crack $300 million. Part of the reason is who builds them: crews of young engineers, early and cheap in their careers. The contractor is fully state-owned, so it skips much of the financing and paperwork that slows others. The steel is domestic, the parts are standardized, and the same playbook gets reused canyon after canyon. 32,000 bridges buys you something priceless. A crew that has done this 100 times, and wages stay low. The average Chinese worker earns under $1,000 a month, so take that headline price with a little salt. Cheap labor is doing a lot of the quiet work. Still, for the people living here, the payoff isn't abstract at all, and Guizhou is busy turning the bridge itself into a cash machine. A glass elevator climbs a tower to a cafe hundreds of meters above the river, and you can bungee jump straight off the world's highest bridge. The bridge is one link in a far bigger push, thousands of miles of expressway into China's poor west. It's meant to reach towards Southeast Asia, opening China's locked-in interior to trade. Guizhou reinvented itself as China's data hub too, cheap power and cool air pulling in huge server farms. The roads are what connect them. But here's the honest doubt: a world-class road still needs the traffic and cargo to fill it. Much of this rides on local government debt, and some of these roads may never earn it back. Maybe that misses what a place like Guizhou is actually buying. For 1,000 years, distance was a tax on every single life out here. A canyon that once split families apart is now a 2-minute drive. The record height gets the headlines. The 2 minutes are the whole point.